You want to make a motion, we go back into open session.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to reconvene the regular meeting.
We have a motion to reconvene our regular session. Do we have a second? Second. A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Certify the meeting.
I'd like to make a motion that council did not discuss anything in the closed meeting other than the one item for which it was convened.
We have a motion to certify the meeting. Do we have a second? A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we had to talk about some things regarding our budget. We do need to get into some new business where we talk about the budget, and there are three components we need to discuss. I think we'll open the floor for discussion first before we get into any of the specifics as to what we're establishing. So the tax rates, as have been discussed, have been out there. Do we have a projection we're going to put up on the screens? So I know that a lot has been said about electric. I know we had Beth Barber present a concern about electric in a petition. I think we've talked that through to an extent that the 5% was recommended by our consultant after a multi-year study to look at where we were, what was going to happen with the electric system with regard to other environmental concerns such as cogen. We are also going out on the open market. And so a recommendation was made for a 5% increase on the electric rate. If we were to adjust that, that has impact across the board because there's still about a $4 million transfer from the electric fund to the general fund. And so if we were to reduce electric rate, for example, from 5% to 4%, there's about $300,000 that has to be found. Having said that, here are our summary of options on real estate and water once again. The original proposal was for a 5-cent increase from 82 cents to 87 cents from staff, and then to look at some level of increase on the water. We advertised a $20 increase or $5 increase on the water for 4,000 gallons, which is $20. But looking at these different scenarios, we have several options. Todd, do you have anything you want to say about any of the options at this point in time?
No, the only thing I would point everyone's attention to is just pay attention to that far right column, transfer to water reserves, that increase. So with the original proposed budget, which had a $1 increase, there's $256,000 that would be used to essentially develop that water balance. We want to just make sure we're looking at several critical infrastructure projects in the coming year to couple years that are going to they're going to exceed that 256. So getting that fund balance to a healthy level is very important. So just as you're making decisions, please keep in mind the impact that it's going to have on the reserve fund balance.
And I think everybody is sorely aware that these are all increases. There is no decrease built in here. That when we say 2 cents and $2 on the water, that's an increase in the tax rate from 82 to 84 cents, and that the water would be about $8 more per month. The same thing with 3 cents and $2, 4 cents and $2, that those are increases, and no one wants to see any increases across the board. Different increases impact people differently, certainly. There are some folks that when they have to pay water and electric at a higher rate, that becomes more challenging. There are other folks that when they have to pay more real estate tax, that becomes more challenging. So none of these are easy decisions. The easiest decision is to turn to the city staff and say, figure it out, you have $500,000 less or $1 million less. And that's the biggest challenge that we face. So council, we need to look and consider tax rates to begin with. And we can have this discussion regarding everything because one going up affects another going down or vice versa. Where do we stand as a council? I'll open the floor.
After all of our discussions, I still stand with the 2 cent tax increase. That brings us to a total of 20 cents in 3 years. So I completely acknowledge, and we have talked about, and I appreciate everyone's perspective on this, because we are trying to become less reliant upon transfers, and we have to do that. It has to be mitigated over time. I would love to say that there will be no future real estate tax increases, but I don't think that that's feasible either. But the assumption that just going up on the real estate tax only affects the property owners is not always true. I appreciate Beth's comment, and I've had several reach out to me that whether fairly or unfairly, anytime there's any increase in real estate taxes at all, it's directly applied to the renter. That it's a pass-through cost to them and makes their life a little more difficult. So in lieu of that decision, consideration and all of the heavy lifting that we have done previously, including 13 cent last year, I just don't feel comfortable moving past that on the real estate. But I do understand that there's a lot to consider, and this is we're trying to get to a good place, and I appreciate Todd and Trish and everyone's effort to give us a lot of information. There's no easy decisions, so that's me.
Any other thoughts?
So I'm landing at 3 cents on real estate and the $3 on water. And the reason that I'm landing there is because we need to build reserves. We need to stop pulling from the transfer. We have infrastructure issues that have to be addressed. We have to have some money that is set aside for things such as natural disasters. And we also have AEP bills that we need to pay. So I would like to propose that we don't raise anything, but I also know that's not realistic to this budget. And I have to look at this budget and what would I do in my own household to get my household finances in order. And so I feel more comfortable with the 3 cents on real estate, $3 on water.
Any other comments?
I'm landing on 2 cents and $3 on the water.
How about the other two?
Anything else?
I could see landing on both. We have all of those things that Jesse said. But again, we have done some really heavy lifting in the prior years, and so we have to consider the percentage that we have increased it over time, and ask our citizens to catch up on things that were not caught up on before. And that's neither here nor there. That's just the reality of what it is. I definitely don't think that we should go lower than $3 on the water. There's a lot to recover there, and I don't want to put ourselves in a situation where we have to borrow money again. I really don't want to do that. I want us to be sustainable, and we've worked really hard to make a budget where we didn't have to borrow anything. But we do have bills, and we will have more bills given the infrastructure that we have. I could see 2 or 3 cents, but I personally don't want to go lower than $3 on the water.
And I did just want to add that I really did appreciate all of the people that spoke tonight, because I do think that as we try to keep these rates as manageable as possible, any increase is an increase on someone. It also gives us time to continue to lean out. And lean out doesn't just mean, reducing staff or anything like that, but policing our practices, policies, procedures, streamlining things, being more efficient. That gives us time to reduce costs there as well. And also, I think that the biggest number one driver that probably everyone up here would agree is, a full court press on economic development, because that is growth that's not at the expense of a taxpayer or a department. And gives us time. There is nothing we can do in this budget that if something catastrophic would happen, that we're in a good place. We don't have reserves, and I think that we're fully aware of that. And that is a place that we cannot be, and we are working to get back there. But I just think that by taking a really moderate approach, we hit it really hard last year, is the best for not only our citizens, but hopefully gives a path forward for our staff too. And I do know that that's a hard ask, and something could change mid-year. And if that is the case, that we would have to get back to the drawing board. But I do think that this leaves the arrow pointing up, and I think that that's something that we had talked about. And actually, I think our net position increases with what's been proposed here tonight than what was originally proposed. As far as that, there's a couple different ways that we've gotten there. But it seems, and I was really hesitant, I think we all were on the $3 water rate, but in lieu of some conversations and some infrastructure needs, I can reluctantly go there, but I would agree that is an area that needs some addressing. So I think that I could agree with that, but I'm good with the 2 cent.
Guy, are you fine with 2 cents and $3?
Yes.
I have
Okay.
one more comment I would like to make. I'm going to put you on the spot. Todd, do you remember what the increase is per cent, roughly per $100,000 on real estate? Wasn't it like $50 additional a year? Or for 1 cent, for 1 cent, increasing it 1 cent, $100,000 property, wasn't it like $50 extra for the entire year? $200,000 was 100. I'm looking for my notes and I can't find it. So I personally own 7 rental properties. And I don't have the highest rates. People fuss at me all the time for not charging my people enough rent. If you're a landlord and you are increasing somebody's rent exponentially because you have to pay $50 extra, then I don't agree with you at all. I would never do that to my renters. That is $50. I'm pretty sure it's $50 for a $100,000 property.
No, I think it was less than that.
It may be less than that, even more the argument. You should not be doing that. You should be able to afford that $50. I know that you don't like it, but that is not a huge amount for 1 year at all.
So the, going up 5 cent, which was proposed
Okay.
originally, a home value of $200,000, there would be a $100 a year increase.
Okay, 5 cents. So math that out for me. I don't have the brain
That
power
was at the
right now at
highest
8
rate.
o'clock to,
Less than half, so it would be.
$20.
50,
exactly.
right.
So if in my opinion, any landlord that raises rent to somebody and it says that it's because we raised real estate taxes, then I think that I would like to have a sidebar with you all. I really would. So I just wanted to get those numbers. I thought
Okay.
that was correct.
So just to clarify, Guy, you're good at 2 cents and $3.
Yes.
Seth, you're good at 2 cents and $3. Jesse, you want 3 cents and $3, but are you good at 2 cents and $3?
No.
Okay, Kelly, what are you congealing around?
Well,
2 cents and
you
$3?
haven't said your thoughts. I'd like to know your thoughts before we
well,
all say what we want.
I think my concern is that ultimately we're going to have to get to a sustainable budget. And I think the reason that Radford has struggled all these years, you all were given a sheet a little earlier tonight, and you saw where tax rates were not increased for a decade in the city prior to 2018. It's a real struggle when we do this to ourselves, basically. I think what we do is put ourselves in a position where we're a little bit revenue starved. I think the rate needs to go up as has been recommended. But having said that, I also recognize the concerns that everybody has that, we need time for people to catch up and all those pieces. I think it's challenging when we only look at it in terms of the total dollar amount. This is an improvement, without a doubt, because the budget will be balanced based on the revenue that's generated this year. Ultimately, for Radford to be fully sustainable, the economic growth has to be a factor, but more likely than not, we're going to have to be more like other communities where we're less reliant on transfers from enterprise funds to get there. I do think it's important, though, that we find a place that the entire council can and I've always felt this, to find a consensus, because when you try to lock it in as, well, I got the votes for this or I got the votes for that, yeah, it can work that way. But I think it's better for all of us if we can say, this makes the most sense and this is the reason why. Ultimately, I don't know where the city's going to land in terms of tax rates, depending on who gets elected in the next election. It could be that we've said we're maxed out on taxes for another 10 years, and good luck to everybody for figuring out how we're going to spend it. Those cuts are significant to somebody. I would argue against Mr. Knipe saying that, real estate affects everybody, but the services provided don't. That, I think it's different for different people. And I think it affects people differently. That extra $50 that somebody might have to pay to have an extra penny on the real estate tax may not be an equivalent to losing hours at your rec center or your library or your parks, or not being able to fix infrastructure, or not being able to add an extra police officer. So it's all tough. But having said that, I would prefer that we be a little bit higher. My biggest preference would be that we could all agree that there's a solution that works for all of us, and we go from there. I don't know that that's going to be the case tonight. So just trying to figure out where everybody is and where staff can work. We heard a staff recommendation Originally, 5 cents and smaller water rate was going to make sense. We've since amended the water rate, so we can look at a little bit less. I think $3 and $3 is what staff has said would be a sweet spot for us to be in a good place, but I'm not hearing that there's majority support for that. So I'll open it back up to council. What do you all want to do?
I'll just add that I actually think it's okay that there's a little dissent. I respect everyone's opinion, and if it's not a 5-0 vote, I think it's okay. I think that we all have a different way of getting to where we want to be and a different approach, and just because I'm not there, I don't, think any less of anyone or have any hard feelings. And if it's a 3-2, 4-1, whatever the case may be, I think that that's perfectly fine. I think that we all want the same thing, just have a little bit different way to go about it. But I did want to clarify, nothing we're doing tonight is going to do any of the things of cutting library hours or services or anything like that. I don't think anyone up here would want to do that. And if we talk about any kind of future elections, I don't think that anyone would want to or would be crazy enough to say that there won't have to be future increases in real estate taxes. I just think it has to be moderate. And that's kind of where we're moving. But I just wanted to add, wherever the vote lands, I think it's perfectly fine for our differences of opinion. I respect everyone's opinion, even if they're different, so.
So did you say that you were wanting the original rate, the 5 cents?
Oh, no,
and
I know that's not
one-
supported.
Well, that's what you, okay.
What I'm saying
Well, I didn't
is,
ask what was supported, I asked what you are.
no, my opinion is that's what we should be doing if we were being serious about really tackling this. But having said that, I want to see what we can do to move something forward. I'm not just interested in making a political, we need to be at 5 cents, or we need to be at 3 cents, or we need to be at 4 cents. I'm much more pragmatic as to what can the staff work with to get us to a place. And we've heard from them, certainly the original was with a lower water amount, so that's changed the calculus a little bit, but that a sweet spot would be $3.03 on the real estate tax. So we can go less than that, but we're asking them to do with a little bit tighter budget that may affect our ability to pay some of the things we need to pay.
Well, that was one suggestion from one staff member. Another staff member gave several different scenarios that would be sustainable. So I want to make sure that we're accurately portraying what, they stated. It wasn't just one rate that everyone suggested.
Would we be able to function at either, right now it seems to be 2 cent and three on the water, or 3 and 3. There's 100 million variables that we could go over, but is there anything that at face value that would lead you to say that it's not doable?
2 cent and $3 and 3 cent and $3, both of those work. There are no guarantees, there never are. But both of those, I think, can work. I believe they can. Of course, 3 cent and $3 gets more breathing room. We do have several, contingencies that could happen in the next fiscal year that could impact or have a pull on cash flows or on revenues.
And there could also hopefully be some good economic boon or things that are around the corner that could offset some of these as well, right? So, I mean, I know that there are some negative things that could happen, but there could be some new positives as well that we think that could generate some revenue as well.
That is true, yes.
I just have to say, though, if I'm budgeting, I'm going to budget based on a more conservative approach as to, what infrastructure may be built, what companies may come. I mean, I'm hoping we're able to develop that too, but I don't think we can budget based on hoping that happens. I think we really have to look at the reality that's in front of us currently and look at this more conservatively in regards to, okay, I would rather, if we're going to err on any side, I'd rather have a little bit money going into the reserves, a little bit money that we don't have to transfer out, or if, heaven forbid, there's another flood or storm that we have to address, that we have the ability to address it and rebuild, which right now we're not. We're not able to rebuild. So another hit on our parks, I can't imagine what that would look like without having the ability to build something back. So like I said, the perfect world would be we don't raise anything. That's just not where we're at right now. So I would rather give them a little bit of wiggle room still look at finding more efficiencies, of course, but I worry about that rainy day. Literally, I worry about the rainy day.
And Todd, just for clarification though, I do want to make sure, either one of these scenarios, you net positive more than the original presentation that you presented, is that correct? At 2 cent and $3 a gallon, or at 3 and 3, the net overall still increases in either scenario from what was originally.
That is correct. It would have a larger impact, positive impact on cash flows for the city than the original proposed budget. Now, the one thing to keep in mind, it does have an impact on transfers. We are becoming more dependent on that this fiscal year. But yes, to answer your question, yes.
Any other thoughts?
Well, I mean, I've said it in the other meetings, you know, my real concern is our water and sewer lines in the city. And I've stated that we need to get to that $47 and some odd cent so we can start getting into some help from the state with grants. And we've established a penny is about 118,000 in revenue on real estate, but you know, $1 on the water brings us in the, is it $1 brings the 445 or so? Yeah. And I'm going to say this, and I'll probably get banged for it. We can come back and look at water rates down the road. That doesn't have to be set in stone tonight. So, you know, if we got into a situation where we were getting too tight on the budget, we could come back and hit the city for, you know, $1 on water rates and raise another $445,000. Not something I'd want to do. I'd like to take it at the minimum, which I think is the 2 cents and $3 for right now, and, you know, work with that for the next 3, 4, 5 months and see how we're going into the new year.
Is that workable for you?
It is at the rates that we've been discussing. Just one point to make. So we can go up on the rates, and we can do that at any time throughout the year. We can do it, you know, once we go through the proper procedure of a public hearing and so forth. Once the rate is put in place, we collect it monthly. And just to allude back to what we were talking about back in the fall, it would take several months before that really started to hit the ledger. But yes, we could do that.
This isn't so much on the rate side, but just overall budget, because it was actually a very good point, and I know we've talked about it various times. Could we get an update on the surplus of vehicle sales? Because I know that we have talked about that, and I really do, and I would love, as we build through all of this, to really get kind of a capital list of what we have, where its usable life is, and anything that we can sell in surplus. If we could get an update on that.
That is a great suggestion, and you know, that there was a comment made during public comment about surplus, and we are working on that. We have a list of vehicles that have already been approved for surplus. We need to get those on the market and get those sold. We've been using a website, GovDeals. We've trained our staff up on how to use it. One thing we need to do throughout the upcoming fiscal year is go through our inventories, see what pieces of equipment are ready for surplus, and go ahead and get them surplus, because it brings cash in for the city. Plus, it also reduces storage, how much we have in storage, which is a form of waste. You know, if we're storing equipment that we're not using, we need to go ahead and do something with it and sell it for the best value we can get out of it. So, you know, for the person that made the comment during public comment, and certainly council, I think we're all in agreement that we absolutely need to get very efficient at surplusing what's not being used, and we need to get rid of.
Because not only the cost that you would receive for that, you're taking them off insurance, the vehicle potentially, maintenance, any of these other things. There's some costs associated with it that would also be offset with that. So I think that there's a lot of potential.
Absolutely.
Hopefully. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts regarding rates? Is there a motion for the tax rate for, by the way, the tax rate can only be set once, so any rates we're talking about would be other rates, electric, water, things along that line. It would not be the tax rate. So once the tax rate is established, it's established for the year, and the first of the taxes would be due in June, the second of the taxes due in December, and so once that's established for the year. I just wanted to clarify that since we talked about coming back and revisiting things. Council, what's your pleasure on the tax rates? Do we have a motion for a rate?
I'll make a motion for a 2-cent increase to the 84-cent tax rate.
We have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Melissa, would you call the roll?
What did you say? You said $2, 2 cents and $3?
On the tax rate. Well, we have to do them separately, but we
Sorry,
can
sorry.
say that
Okay.
it's 2 cents and $3 if that's what you all want to do, but we have to do the tax rate separately from the rates and fees.
Sorry.
Mrs. Artrip?
On 2 cents?
Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Foster?
No.
Mr. Gillespie?
Yes.
Mr. Wolford?
Yes.
Mayor Horton?
Yes. So we also need to consider the fees and rates. We have our fee schedule. The only adjustment would be to the water rate. Council, do you all have a proposal, a motion on what you would like to do based on the fees and rates?
I'd like to make a motion to make that rate $3 per 1,000 gallons. I
We have a-
mean, yes. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yes.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Would you call the roll, Melissa?
Mrs. Artrip?
Yes.
Mrs. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Gillespie?
Yes.
Mr. Wolford?
Yes.
Mayor Horton?
Yes. And then ultimately, council, we have the budget as it has been presented. We've made some changes to it over the last few weeks. The final budget was presented to you this evening in a brief with the slideshow. Do we have a motion to adopt the budget as was presented most recently this evening?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Would you call the roll?
Mrs. Artrip?
Yes.
Mrs. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Gillespie?
Yes.
Mr. Wolford?
Yes.
Mayor Horton?
Yes. Okay, that takes care of business for tonight. Now, a couple of things that we need to talk about. We do have a regular meeting scheduled for Monday. Council, we have a work session that is planned prior to that to talk about budget or anything along that line. Do you want to continue that work session, or do you feel like we don't need it?
I mean, I feel like we've probably have worked through the numbers as, I think we've all given a lot of thought to it, and I'm not sure that another work session is going to
Don't
change
need it?
anything.
Okay. So just for clarification, our next regular meeting will be Monday, April 27th at 7 p.m. There will not be a work session on April 27th at 6 p.m. We will have a special meeting on April 28th, 1 week from tonight, at 6 p.m. For the second reading of the budget. Now, the way our budget process works is anything can change between the first and second reading. And as such, we will revisit all of the rates and the fees and the budget once again, just as we did this evening. We can have further discussion, we can have further scenarios if we choose to, and go from there. Are there any questions? All right, at this point, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second? Second. A motion and a second, all in favor say good night.
Good night.